Hello and welcome to this webcast, which is focused on exploring some e-learning tools I've learned about and used in the last few months that can be used in the classroom. The first thing to do before using technology in the classroom is to think about how it will enhance your students' learning experience. Sometimes there's a tendency to assume that any use of technology is necessarily innovative and is adding something to the classroom, but this is not always the case. However, there are definitely things that you can do with technology to enhance learning and teaching which would not be possible without it. For example, using a video which has an embedded quiz in it to introduce a new topic to the class. With a website like Edpuzzle, you can ask students to watch at home prior to coming to the class. Embedding quizzes into the video ensures that students are active during their viewing time. This is a video that I use to introduce the topic of water supply problems in different areas of the world. This is called Grace's Story and gives students an insight into water supply problems from the perspective of a young girl living in a small village. As you can see, the video stops. The video stops when you have inserted a question. Although you cannot hear the audio on the webcast, the question relates to something the narrator says. Students have the option of answering right away and pressing Submit, or they can listen again if they didn't get it the first time round. This is a big advantage because it enables students to work at their own pace. Technology can also be used to help the tutor get a picture of how well students have understood certain information. Quizzes can be set up via websites such as Socrative, and students submit their answers using their smartphones. This can be used as a warmer to check understanding of something from the previous class, or it can be used during a class to check certain key information. The advantage for the tutor is that he or she can get a better sense of how the whole class is doing, rather than relying on one or two students answering a question when it is set to the class as a whole. Many tools that are available encourage students to work on group projects together. There are lots of tools available through Adobe which enable students to work together on producing, for example, a photo diary, a magazine, or a video. The results can be very professional, and these tools are very easy to use. They can be an alternative to the usual PowerPoint presentations. This is a web page I created to show some of the events that have happened in my college recently. And this is a short screencast which actually explains how Screencast-O-Matic works, which is the website that I'm using to create this webcast. Students can also use many of the tools available through Google, such as Google Slides, which again is what I'm using to create this presentation. And it encourages students who are working together on a group presentation to comment on each other's slides. whereas actually students often produce slides separately even when they're doing a group presentation. There's also Google Maps, which students can use to create a map of interesting places in their area and so on. So those are some of the many tools that are available for use in the classroom. When considering using these and other tools, there's, I think, three main things to consider. The first one is time. Initially, it may take a while to work out how to use some of the tools and websites, but then once you've got the hang of using them, it's not so time consuming. You also need to think about the practicalities. Although some tools may seem easy to use, you also have to think about it from the student's point of view. For example, do they have to open an account? How do you send a link to them that they can access? What if students don't have phones, smartphones? Also, remember the SAMR model to help you decide the extent to which you are adding to your students' learning experience or simply replicating an activity that could be done just as well with pen and paper or board and board marker. One thing I would like to explore further is the concept of the flipped classroom. I think this can really make a teacher think about the essentials of what he or she is trying to help the students understand. The flipped classroom delivers content that students will engage with outside of the class, so a teacher must consider carefully what the essentials are of what he or she wants to teach. This necessarily means rethinking the content. It also makes you rethink your role as a tutor. To a certain extent, it involves giving up a certain amount of power, as tutors rely on students doing the work at home. Also, some of the tools that a tutor uses to teach may be more familiar to the students than to the tutors themselves. So that's a quick summary of the things that I've learned about during the Learning Technologies in EAP course. So thanks for listening.